Welcome to the Healing Grove podcast. I'm Dr. Kristin, an integrative holistic family physician, author of Life After Lyme, and host in this virtual space of learning, healing, and growing. I believe humans are like trees, and our physical limb is only one of many. Health on all limbs of the tree, emotional, conceptual, social, spiritual, is absolutely required for the whole tree that is you to be vibrantly well. I created the Healing Grove podcast as a place to showcase some of the world's best integrative and holistic medicine, to expose you to transformative tools and mindset shifts for all limbs of your tree. I hope you enjoy our conversation in the Healing Grove today as much as I enjoyed having it. Welcome everyone to the Healing Grove podcast. I'm so excited to have a conversation today with my new friend, Caroline Allen, the co-founder of Beam Minerals. So it's become more and more frequent in my life that people are reaching out to me. I guess that's kind of a fun thing about having a podcast. People are like, oh, there's a podcast. This person should be on your podcast. And your team reached out to me a couple months ago and said, hey, we think that the Healing Grove podcast would be a perfect place for Caroline to come speak because she has an incredible story of overcoming her own complex chronic, set of symptoms. And she has this amazing discovery that she's landed on that she's super passionate about sharing with the world. And, you checked all my boxes in terms of who I like to bring to this audience. So I'm really, really glad that you're here, Caroline, and excited to have this conversation about plant-based minerals, because clearly it's something that a lot of people don't know about yet, and that's about to change. So why don't you start by telling us kind of how you came to this place of understanding the importance of plant-based minerals through your own journey?
Yeah. Well, what happened for me is I was in a corporate career, not at all involved in health and wellness, though I've been a very health-oriented person, mainly because I had a lot of health issues. I had autoimmune and really intense gluten intolerance, and I had bad inflammation in my gut from that, as well as probably glyphosate toxicity issues. I've had low thyroid for many, many years. I had recurring sinus infections, and also ever since I had 2 children, I had badly receding gums, really soft dentin in my teeth, and bone loss. And I went to lots of different practitioners and healers and, you name it, I've tried it, trying to heal myself. And at a very low point, I was introduced to plant-based minerals. They were these liquids that I easily took. They tasted like water. They were easy. I'm not a great person for supplements because I really hate taking pills, but these were so easy that I kept taking them. And after like 2 months, I went to my dentist. I had my teeth cleaned 4 times a year because of how the problems that I had with my mouth. And when she came to look in my mouth, she was like, oh my gosh, what's changed? The pHs in your mouth is totally different. The tissues look pink and healthy. The inflammation is almost gone. And I was like, wow, I don't know. I think maybe it's these minerals I've been taking. And she's like, well, just keep doing it. Then 4 months in, I went to have my adrenal test. I've been working with the same naturopath, worked with so many different people trying to heal my adrenals. But this particular person I had worked with for about 1.5 years. And we had tried so many things to try and jumpstart my adrenal function with 0 effect. And when she looked at the results, they were 1/3 of the way up the chart with this natural sawtooth pattern, which they're supposed to have. And she was like, this is so cool. What did you do? Because at my last appointment, she had given me hydrocortisone to take, a prescription. So when your naturopath gives you a hydrocortisone prescription, it's not good, right? But I didn't want to do that. I didn't do that. So she was really excited as well. And then over the space of about 6 to 9 months, I went through season after season, no sinus infection. My mouth continued to heal. Now it's in great shape. I still have the recession, but that doesn't come back. But my teeth are very, very healthy. I have no deep pockets anymore. I had 5s and 6s. Now there's 1s and 2s. And I started really being curious about, after doing so many things to try and heal myself, and then just taking these minerals that supported my body in doing what it can naturally do, I jumped into research. And I first studied about, mineral depletion, and why was I mineral depleted, and the effects of mineral depletion. And that was this big aha, like, oh, right, all these things were connected. All these different seemingly disparate issues I had were actually connected, and how they were connected. And then I studied about mineral replenishment and how it actually happens in the body, and why I just eating food wasn't replenishing the minerals in my body.
Let's
And
let's pause
ultimately,
there for one sec,
yeah,
'cause I think a lot of people are probably wondering, well, where did she grow up? Like, why was she so depleted? Is this something that's common? Do a lot of modern humans have this issue of mineral depletion? And if so, why?
yeah, this is the hugest aha I had. Modern scientists believe that humans today have only, if you're not actively supplementing with a full spectrum of minerals, that's hard to do, or it's actually simple, but if you're going to do it with pills and powders and drinks, it's hard to do. Um, you probably only have about 37 to 40% of the minerals in your body that you need just for normal function. So if you're in a room and you like take the light and you dim it down to about 40%, and I'm actually being very generous when I say 40%, because so many people eat really badly. Um, and they also have all sorts of uh, problems with absorption and things like that. So 40% is generous. That's how we're all operating. And when your body can only generate 40% of the energy that it needs, it has to pick and choose. And why is it? Why are we depleted? So first of all, this is so interesting to me. So a lot of people know that our soils are depleted of minerals, but why is it? So when a plant grows in the soil, the way it creates the structure in the plant, whether it's a small little tomato plant or a huge cedar tree, is by sucking the minerals out of the soil. All structure everywhere is made of minerals. Look around you, every piece of structural element around you, the chair you're sitting on, you know, all of the structure in your body is made of minerals. If you took all the water out of your body, it'd be a little pile of minerals and amino acids. So when we cultivate in the soil, we grow plants in the soil and we take it away. In nature, those plants grow, they die, they decompose, and the mineral content ends up back in the soil. But we've been cultivating in the same soil for hundreds of years, and the soils themselves simply don't have enough nutritional content. So the plants are still growing, but the nutritional content of those plants is is less, much less. Like, to get the same nutrition from an apple your grandfather ate, you'd have to eat like 6 apples. That's how different it is.
Wow.
Hugely different.
Are farmers who are aware of this doing something different to replenish their soils? I mean, is it still possible to buy produce that is actually originally,
Nutrient.
yeah,
Yeah.
nutrient dense?
Yeah. Well, here's what I will tell you. Certainly in the regenerative farming movement, they have learned to use humic and fulvic, plant-based minerals, as a way to get mineral content back into their soils. In the same way that it's hard to replenish minerals in your body if you don't have the right tools, you can't just throw some minerals on the soil and expect the plants to be bioavailable to the plant. So getting minerals into the soil in a cost-effective, for farming purposes, for cultivation, production farming purposes, is not that easy. So certainly in the regenerative farming areas, they're doing that. But even organic food that you eat is still cultivated in the same soils over and over again. And if they are not using proper replenishment tools in that soil, and I'm telling you, this is a ubiquitous problem. ubiquitous problem. So,
Well, how long, let's say someone takes over some land and or buys a bit of land and they want to sort of create this more kind of robustly nourishing product. How long does it take to regenerate, to replenish that soil?
using humic and fulvic, it can be very, very quickly within a year. Without humic and
Wow.
fulvic, it can be 10 years.
Wow. Okay, so
That's the
let's
difference.
talk about humic and fulvic because I one of my questions for you is if the plants are all depleted, they're 30% of their original, and humic and fulvic come from plants.
Mm.
You see where I'm going with this,
Yeah,
Caroline.
but humic and fulvic don't come from plants that grow today. Humic and fulvic that we're using and that they're using in agriculture, these come from ancient decomposed freshwater plants. So imagine 65 million years ago, there were rainforests all around the earth. It was a very warm and humid planet. And a meteor hit the Yucatan and it killed 75% of all life on earth in a few hours. And all of those rainforests around the earth died and decomposed into different humic substances. In the Himalayas, they have shilajit. In the British Isles, they have peat. In the Amazon basin, they have black soil, they call it. In other areas, there's leonardite. There's different substances. In the case of our products, we use a mineral-rich crystalline substance called humate. It comes from about 10 to 12 feet below the surface of the earth. People always ask me about sustainability, and it's a really good question. Things like shilajit, not sustainable. I'm telling you, it's so hard to harvest. There's very little of it. It's not a sustainable resource, and you also have to be really, really careful with sourcing because they've determined that the Westerners will pay a lot for it, so they just take a little bit of shilajit and mix it with who knows what, and you're thinking it's real pure shilajit. So you need to be careful. But it comes from a deposit in the Southwest United States. There's hundreds of millions of tons in this one single deposit, and there are multiple deposits around. And we, just to give people an idea, in 1 year, we used, I think, just a little over 2 tons. So that's how mineral rich it is. It's
Wow.
incredibly mineral rich.
Wow.
So this is ancient and humic and fulvic. So humic is the first molecule and fulvic is extracted out of humic. So there, it gets down to very complex molecular stuff that we don't have to go into. But the main thing to note is these only come from the decomposition of freshwater plants. So this is the main difference between either salt-based electrolytes or saltwater kinds of mineral solutions, maybe ormus or Kinton water or other, or even chlorella, spirulina, different kinds of substances that have high mineral content, but they don't have the capacities, the additional capacities that humic and fulvic have that make them particularly situated to support replenishment of minerals, both in plants and in humans.
All right. So I want to hear more about that. I'm a huge chlorella fan, and chlorella
Yeah.
is actually a freshwater blue-green algae, right? So
Okay.
it's not that it's coming from salt water that makes it a problem. It's just that it doesn't do something else that humic and fulvic does.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll just
What
talk
is
about that.
that? What is that magic? Tell us more
Yeah.
about the properties.
So the cool thing about humic and fulvic is they both together, they provide the absolute full spectrum of minerals. And I'm sure chlorella is the same in that it provides the full spectrum of minerals that your body needs. Humic and fulvic are the ratios of minerals in their natural formulations, meaning formulated by Mother Nature, are in the same ratios of minerals that your body utilizes. And why is that? Because they evolved right next to cellular systems on Earth. We all evolved from this Earth. We are of the Earth. So it makes sense, as above, what I kind of say, as above, so below. It's all one big hologram. so so that's one of the cool things. So you can take a lot of humic and fulvic without creating imbalance in your body, as opposed to using a lab formulated electrolyte supplement that has 100 or 320 milligrams of magnesium and 240 milligrams of potassium and so much sodium and etc. When you take more of that, you're actually creating imbalance in your gut. But when you use more humic and fulvic, you keep the balance, you just add more. So that's the first thing that's so important. And we could talk more into that. But the second thing is that humic and fulvic not only provide all the minerals, they provide the delivery system for the minerals into your cells. And this is one of the big things people don't understand about minerals, is that it's really cool if minerals digest in your gut, and it's nice if they absorb through the gut lining into your bloodstream, but most of them don't do their job in your bloodstream. They have to get inside your cells. Now, that all happens via this process called diffusion, which is it's this thing where via something called the concentration gradient, the channel opens in the cell wall, and your body will try to, because it's a liquid solution inside your body, will try to balance how much how much salt, let's say, is inside your cell with how much salt is outside your cell. So that's called passive diffusion. But the fulvic molecule is something called a flavonoid, and it's the most effective flavonoid that they know of. It carries 60 times its weight of nutrients and mineral content through the cell wall into the cell. Wow. And the interesting thing is, your cell is the wall of your cell is a boundary purposely trying to keep non-beneficial substances out of your tissues. But it recognizes fulvic as a beneficial substance. Any channel that opens in the cell wall, the fulvic gets a free pass through. Now, the fulvic molecule is the only molecule that has the capacity to change its polarity. So it's actually a delivery system. It carries 60 times its weight of nutrients. Cell wall opens a pathway, gets a free pass through, goes into the cell, and then it changes its polarity. And if you imagine like a magnet, and you've got like a whole bunch of metal things attached to the magnet, and if you undid them, if you turned off the magnet, those things would drop off. That's like what happens with this fulvic molecule. It changes its polarity, and that nutritional content falls off inside the cell where it's available to the mitochondria for energy generation, because that's where minerals are utilized. The mitochondria in your cells utilize most minerals as cofactors with amino acids for energy generation. They're called ATPs, little tiny units of energy. Your whole entire body is driven from this ATP energy that's generated mostly through this mitochondrial function.
Yeah, amazing. So it sounds too good to be true. And here's my question. Are there studies looking at where these molecules end up and where these minerals end up, and how are they measuring that?
There are so many studies. So the fulvic molecule in particular is being studied all around the world. It's being studied by big pharma as a delivery system for drugs, for their things they're developing. I have a whole compilation of studies. I think it's it's like 16 pages with just a link and an abstract, on and on and on, and I'm happy to provide it. You could provide it in your show notes if you'd like, for people who like to go deeper and really understand the science.
That'd be awesome. I mean, you call yourself the mineral geek, but I got a lot of geeks in my community. All different flavors of geeks and nerds. They'll be psyched to see that.
That's great.
Amazing. Well, help me understand then. I'm sort of getting a picture of fulvic acid now as kind of one aspect of humic acid or humate, right?
Yes.
And I'm sort of creating a story for myself, and maybe you can tell me if I'm on the right track. So your microboost and your electrolytes, I know one is the humic acid and one is the fulvic acid. Is that because there's not enough fulvic acid in the one to deliver everything you want from the one delivered, and you're kind of separating them out that way?
So now we're jumping into our products, but I want to let's just keep it really let's keep it on the fulvic and humic for a minute,
Yeah.
because I think if we do have a fulvic product and we have a humic product, but let's keep on how these molecules work so we can help people create a foundation for why they would even care about these. So this fulvic molecule is this incredible delivery system for minerals into your cells, because it carries the 60 times this weight of nutrients in and then drops them off. But it's not done there. Now that fulvic molecule travels around inside your cell. It's such a small molecule. And it gathers, now it's in an opposite polarity, and it gathers biowaste, toxins, heavy metals, free radicals that have gotten into your cells. And heavy metals is really important because these are heavy metals that have been stored in your tissues. Remember, your cells are your tissues. It gathers things like glyphosate. It gathers all sorts of bio-waste and just detritus from biosynthesis processes. And now the channel opens in the cell and it carries that out into the bloodstream. And then it changes its polarity again so that those things drop off inside your bloodstream. So it's literally a shuttle. Nutrients in, bio-waste and toxins out. Nutrients in, bio-waste and toxins out. It is the evolution, like the evolutionary tool to support all cellular life on Earth, because these nutrients and amino acids and minerals had to get inside the cell.
Amazing.
So, when we think about plants, and I'm sure you've heard of mycelium. So mycelium are these, it's like this delivery system for nutritional elements to the roots of plants underneath the earth. And what do they deliver? They deliver packets of humic and fulvic. Those are their delivery molecules. Okay. So now this fulvic molecule has dropped off these detritus, bio-waste, heavy metals, et cetera, into the bloodstream. Now its partner is the humic molecule. And the humic molecule is a very large molecule. Some people that have studied this for years, like 40 years, the world-renowned fulvic and humic scientists, they call humic the God molecule because of its capacity. And I'm not going to even go into the really crazy, wild things about it. But the way I like to describe it is like a Velcro ball. It's extremely sticky on the outside because it's one of the strongest electrolyte molecules known to man. It has a huge amount of receptor sites on the outside. It just hangs out in the bloodstream. I like to call it Mother Nature's janitor, because it just hangs out in your bloodstream, constantly moving through, and it gathers bio-waste, toxins, heavy metals, free radicals. It's exponentially the best antioxidant you can have in your system. It does some interesting things with, it will gather nanoplastics, it will gather spike proteins, it will gather just cellular detritus, senescent cells, and it will also sequester glyphosate. The glyphosate molecule, it actually builds a film around it and starts to break it down. So this molecule, this humic molecule, at a certain point, it gets so heavy at a molecular weight that it falls out of solution and it leaves your body through all of the elimination channels. And that's really important for people who are interested in detoxification, because it doesn't require certain detox channels to be open, because it will use any and every channel, including your tears, your snot, your sweat, your saliva, your breath. Just sloughing off cells, just rubbing your hands together, cells come off, all over your body, on your skin, or the bottoms of your feet, and as well as the urine and feces. So it's like that's why I like to call it Mother Nature's janitor, because it's constantly just doing this. You don't have to do a big detox protocol, or even if you do one, as soon as you finish it, you're going to be encountering more environmental toxins. You need to be constantly removing these. So that's how these two molecules work, beyond their just providing the full spectrum of minerals. They're also supporting cellular life. And what I want people to understand is, we would not be standing here as a set of cellular systems. Our whole body is made of cells without humic and fulvic, because they developed and were evolved on this planet right alongside cellular systems to support nutrient uptake and cellular system detoxification.
Wow. That's the most comprehensive and understandable explanation I've ever heard about these molecules. I've been looking at them for several years. They've sort of gotten hot in the last 5 or 6 years, right? But that was really, really helpful. They're almost like these little critters. It feels like they're these like little benevolent critters who are kind of sort of like the mitochondria are these little sort of bacteria-like creatures that are cranking out all of our energy for us. They kind of like working in concert with those guys. I'm mentally adding them to my healing team in my mind, like as my own little pets that are, you know, working hard for me.
They really are. And the reason because of my own experience and then all this research, I had so many aha moments, Kristin. It was like at a certain point, my mind just went like, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to bring this message to the world, because I had no idea, first of all, that I was mineral deficient. And second of all, I had no idea that minerals fuel every biosynthesis and action in my body.
Yeah.
Without minerals, you will cease to function. Minerals and amino acids inside your cells fuel all of the energy, almost all of the energy generation in your body. So your body makes a lot of amino acids, it makes no minerals. You have to ingest them all. So unless you're finding ways to support mineral replenishment, and the problem is a lot of, one of the big aha moments I had is that we've been kind of taught to think about our body kind of like a car, and partly it's because of what I call the supplement facts panel on the back of bottles of supplements, and it says on there, well, this equals a certain percentage of a minimum RDA or daily allowance or something. When I really looked into that, what I recognized is those are really ludicrous, because first of all, they don't take into account someone's genetics, their epigenetics, their lifestyle, their body size, or their health history, or their lifestyle, whether they're work out a lot or sit on the couch all day, how they eat. So you cannot use those as a guideline for you. You can't really, they're useless as a true guideline. And what they do is they actually make people think, oh, someone said I need 320 milligrams of magnesium a day, I should just fill up the tank and take a pill. But the fact is, your body is not a mechanized thing like that. And the replenishment system in your body is an ecosystem. It works more like a forest than a car. So I always tell people, if you think about your gut and what we know about the gut microbiome today, it's more like a forest. Like a healthy forest, it's like got all the right nutrients, it's got good air, not contaminated air, it's got good water, it's got, everything's flourishing because it has what it needs. Now go take a wheelbarrow of magnesium and throw it somewhere on the forest floor, and how does it thrive? It doesn't. In that area, it's like, too much, and the plants burn, and they're not happy, and we need water and stuff to remove that toxicity. So when you're taking megadose minerals in those kinds of ways, measured in milligrams, you're actually creating imbalance constantly in your microbiome. And
Yeah.
so we need to start thinking about our body like an ecosystem, with these microbiomes, and treating it that way. It's
I
a real
love
different
I love
concept.
that image. Yeah. Listeners of the Healing Grove know that I like to think of us as trees, with different limbs, like a physical limb. We have an emotional limb, a conceptual limb. And so that image really, really resonates with me. For someone who's sort of like, well, I know I feel pretty good. I don't know that I need these. What might people experience that they might not already be recognizing as mineral depletion that could be signs of that?
Yeah. Well, so one of the foundational thing to think about is if your body cannot generate enough energy to do everything, it has to pick and choose. And depending on your body and your strengths and weaknesses in your genetics, your epigenetics, etc., it's going to pick and choose different things. So many people are aware, like when they have a cramp in their leg at night, they're like, oh, people think, oh, I need magnesium. Just so you know, it's not always magnesium. It could be an imbalance between sodium and potassium. It could be a deficiency in phosphorus. It could be a lot of different things. So that said, so cramping people think about, or headaches. Sometimes people think of as being an electrolyte imbalance, or hydration issue. Experiencing dehydration actually is a mineral depletion issue. People don't think of it that way, and we can talk about that later if we want to. Brain fog, just feeling that feeling of like I can't get the clouds to clear and I need to focus and I can't gather my energy. Absolutely mineral depletion. Having a struggle getting to sleep. I was an insomniac all my life until I started taking these minerals and replenish my mineral stores. I sleep totally well now. I'm not saying I never have a bad night of sleep because of like jet lag or something, but most nights I sleep through the night. And I can get to sleep. That's unheard of for me. I mean, literally, I had 40 years of bad insomnia.
Oh,
Things like adrenal fatigue. The thing about your adrenal gland is it stores minerals. And I mean, the adrenal gland is one of the most important aspects of your body. It gets you up and going. And if it doesn't have enough minerals to store, that's your adrenal function will tank. Things like hair loss. A lot of people who are doing different kinds of diets, like keto or low carb, trying to do weight loss, they experience hair loss. That is your body telling you, I don't need hair very much, so we're going to focus on the more important things and we'll let these hair follicles go. Okay? Of course, nails, people often, when they have chipping nails, they, start eating dairy or something and that's giving minerals back that you need to support that. There's anxiety. So people, there's so much anxiety and depression happening. There's all sorts of issues with ADHD and cognitive issues associated with young kids now. So, the food issue is one problem that we have with depletion and that's causing deficiency, like chronic deficiency. The other thing is bottled and filtered water. And that's what's exacerbated the issue just in the last 10 years, because people are drinking mostly water that has no minerals in it. And I've heard this time and time again from people who they installed a reverse osmosis filtration system in their home water system. And within a few months, they're like, wow, like my teeth are starting to hurt, or and their nails are chipping because their mineral content has greatly reduced.
yeah.
So kids are, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, there weren't kids coming off the soccer fields with cramping legs. Now this is what I hear from parents all over, from kids who are doing sports, that their kids are experiencing extreme electrolyte imbalance and cramping and all sorts of heat stroke and like foggy head and stuff.
So wait, you mean like the blue Gatorade ice doesn't like solve that problem? I mean, let's talk about that. Let's break that myth down, because that's usually people's go-to, right? When their kids cramping on the field.
Right, exactly. So here's the thing that people need to understand. That is first of all, it's using the car mentality. And so I'm on a mission around salt-based electrolytes, and I'm sorry to all the companies out there or people who are using them, but salt-based electrolytes, people should understand they were designed for emergency situations. So Gatorade uses salt-based electrolytes. They were designed for a military setting for soldiers who were about to pass out. They are not meant to be used on a regular basis. Think about your digestive tract. It's a freshwater system. It's not a saltwater system. You get plenty of salt from the foods you eat, and I understand people are using Himalayan salts and things like that because they do have a few trace minerals. Well, that's cool, but your body needs a whole bunch more minerals than are in that salt, first of all. And second of all, when you use salts on a regular basis, and athletes who have used salt-based electrolytes, they know this. Every single time I talk to one of them, they're like, "Oh my God, you're right." Which is what happens is it irritates the lining of the bladder and kidney when you're constantly putting so much salt into your digestive tract. Now you urinate more. Now you're flushing minerals. You're actually what I call irrigating rather than hydrating.
Hmm.
Every time I explain this to an athlete, they're like, "Oh my God, you're right. I urinate so much, and I take more. I'm taking more electrolytes because I feel like I'm dehydrated, and I'm just urinating more and more."
Hmm.
So it's not using them once in a while. If you're in a really intensive situation and you need it, that's cool. The thing about that drink, the Gatorade drink, is first of all it's flavored, so it has to be digested. You only actually digest about 10 to 12% of the minerals that are in that.
Really?
Yeah,
Where do the other ones go?
they just go out your urine. And that's one of the reasons that people urinate more when they take a lot of salt-based electrolytes, because their body says, in the ecosystem of your microbiome, says, "I've got too much. I need to get rid of this toxicity, let's call it this concentration,
Mhm.
because it's too much. It's not supporting this microbiome." So it starts doing elimination. Now you're actually trying to uptake, and your body's in extreme elimination. You see?
Although presumably if it gets to your urine, it was digested and moved quickly to, out of your bloodstream to your kidneys, right? So, but the point is it just doesn't get pulled into cells, it sounds like, if it's coming out in
Well,
urine.
so once it's digested, it has to be absorbed through the lining of the gut. So one of the reasons it's getting eliminated is because one of the things people don't understand is the lining of your gut is actually covered with billions, quadrillions of receptor sites. I like to think of them like catcher's mitts, and each one of these catcher's mitts is specific to specific elements. It's not like any element that hits the catcher's mitt can be absorbed. No, there's like a whole bunch of them for magnesium because you use a lot, and potassium, what we call the macro minerals. But there's, in specific ratios, there's smaller numbers of receptor sites for things that you would probably never take a pill for, like phosphorus or molybdenum or vanadium, or on and on, things that people don't know they need, like boron, which is actually you need a lot of. So when you're flooding your system with all these four, usually three or four, in the salt-based electrolytes, they're usually three or four minerals. Electrolytes are just minerals with a strong electrical charge. So your body says, "I've got this too much of a concentration. We need to get rid of this," and it's doing elimination.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So you wanted to bring this to market because you felt like the world needed to know about it, but there was already stuff out there, right? Because you had taken some to heal.
Mm-hmm.
What sets your product apart from what else is out there? How is it different, or is it just another player in a place that needs more humic and fulvic acid anyway, so it's all fine?
Well, first of all, our products are not acids. And so lots of people have heard of fulvic and humic acid, and there are quite a few other products that are fulvic and humic acid. And these are just molecules that have been extracted from their base material using hydrochloric acid. It's not a bad thing, except that the acid molecule is a larger molecule that first has to be digested and broken down before it can be absorbed. The molecules in our products are not acids. They are at the molecular size, ready for absorption. They require zero digestion. So when you drink them, the fulvic in our electrolytes product, it's such a small molecule, it starts absorbing through the lining of your mouth, your throat, your esophagus, any tissue it touches. Doesn't require a healthy gut lining, doesn't require digestive enzymes to break it down. It's immediately ready for absorption. And the same with the humic, although the humic is a larger molecule that does require absorption through the lining of the gut.
So does that explain why sprays of the same materials also work? They just get instantly absorbed into your cells?
Exactly. So our spray, our Instalight spray, which is a fulvic spray, it's so cool. You can literally give yourself an electrolyte replenisher just by spraying and breathing in. And it absorbs through the skin. It absorbs through the lining of the sinuses, which are extremely porous. It will give you, I just used this recently for jet lag. I was extremely jet lagged and I just kept spraying it. And within 10 minutes, I was like, oh, I finally feel better. I was really, I did not feel good. I was nauseous. I mean, I was really in a bad state. But it leaves no residue on your skin because it completely absorbs in. It'll just leave your skin feeling very, very soft. Whereas if you use like a magnesium spray or salve, you'll feel it on the skins because it didn't absorb. It's mostly on the outside.
Yeah.
Very small amount of it actually gets absorbed.
So I want to give you some feedback on the samples you sent me. So your
Oh,
company
great.
is very generous. You guys sent me all of those sprays behind you, and I took them to Greece with me on a recent swim trek. I was out there with a bunch of women who we swam with every day, and we were swimming a lot of a lot of meters for me. I don't usually train as many as that kind of distance. And I brought the electrolytes on the boat every day. And so if anyone had a cramp, full in like, scientific, let's do some research mode. I was like, let's try this. Let's see what happens. And everybody reported that it was amazingly beneficial, rapid reduction in cramps, even someone who had menstrual cramps.
Yes, it works very well for menstrual cramps.
That blew me away, actually. We had another couple of people who were dealing with respiratory issues. I gave them what's it called? The Respirite.
Respiralites, yeah.
Electrolytes, and they felt like it was really helpful to them. And then the boo boo spray, I did get a little bit of a sunburn on my face the first day, and I was using that on my face. And yeah, I thought it all was really surprisingly effective. Like I kind of didn't really believe it was going to do anything
It's
between
kind
me
of
and
crazy.
Caroline, but it was really helpful. Yeah.
I have to say, every time I use Instalights, I don't think it's going to work. And then I'm like, "Ah, it really works. It's amazing. I mean, I know we always say it works like magic, but it's backed by science. But, whenever you're doing something like a spray, you're like, really? But then when you do and it works, you're like, wow, that is so cool.
So crazy. So what
I'm going to tell a quick story. We've been working with a tennis pro, and he's been doing really intense tournaments in the southern United States. It's been so hot and so humid, and all of the other tennis pros are coming off the courts cramping, having major heat stroke issues, and they're looking at him and going like, "What the heck are you doing? No cramping?" And he's like, "Yeah, beam minerals."
amazing.
So really, yeah.
So do people need anything else? I'm a huge minimalist when it comes to my supplementation. I like people to be on no more than 4 things, and I'm probably going to switch one of those things to your product because it just seems like such a much better delivery system and model. But in terms of other supplements, should people go off their B vitamins? Should they go off of their taurine? Should they, what are the things that you recommend or suggest people do when they're thinking about their whole regimen?
So what I say is plant-based minerals are incredible for mineral delivery. They also support uptake of all the other supplementation you're taking. So if you were taking our products as an example, they would provide all of the mineral supplementation you need. And based on whether you're a performance athlete or just kind of a regular Joe who might go to the gym once or twice a week or something, you would use them differently. And we could, there's lots of information on our website about that. But they provide all of the mineral supplementation you need. You do not need to take any other zinc or any other salt-based electrolytes or any of that. But you would continue to take, if you're taking some amino acids, if you're taking B vitamins, you would take your vitamin D, if you're doing your, fat, fish
Omega.
oils and things like, yeah, omegas. So those are important to continue, but this will support the uptake of those.
Okay.
Um,
Okay,
yeah,
awesome. That's sort of what it sounded like. And then the other question I have about them, as you described the way in which the humate molecule sort of collects
humic,
humic.
humic. Yeah,
sorry, the humic
that's right.
collects the garbage and the toxins and eventually gets kind of excreted through the body. Do we know what pathway is it preferentially taken through the gut? Is it preferentially secreted via the kidneys, or do we know?
It actually will use every single pathway, and that's what's so cool. So some people, when they start taking our products, they're like, my sweat stinks, or my tears are itchy, or my earwax has been really itchy. So it literally will use every pathway, whatever pathway is open and available.
And do people still benefit from binders like chlorella or bentonite
Mhm.
clay to help facilitate that removal, or is it kind of
So,
obviate the need for that because it's already kind of its own binder?
yeah. So what I say is if you're using those binders in a particular detox protocol, fantastic, because you're in a super active process of lowering a particular, whether it's mold or it's some heavy metal or whatever it is, okay, a lowering toxicity of something specific, and you're going through a protocol for a short period of time. But on an ongoing basis, you do not need any other binders. Fulvic is extremely effective, and when I send you the compilation of studies, there's lots of information about that. Yeah.
Awesome. What do we know, speaking of binders and getting things out of the body, what do we know or what is there that's known, I guess, about its effects on long COVID and spike protein and the kinds of debris that COVID has left in so many of us?
Yeah. So I am one of those people, just so you know, I have had long COVID. Um, and one of the challenges that I had with our products is that, and I also had the vaccine. My father was dying, and I needed to do that to be with him. But so before COVID, one of the things about the humic that is really important to tell your community is that people who have autoimmune, people who have mold exposure, people who've had Lyme's, people who have had long COVID can tend to get what we call Herxheimer responses, detox responses, when they start using humic for the first time. On our bottles, there's a little QR code on the back that takes you to the kind of the product usage, where there's what we call the slow introduction method. We also have an article that we can provide to you if you want to put it in your show notes. It's a Herxheimer and humic article that helps demystify just Herxheimer responses, helps people understand what to look for, and also then how to slowly introduce humic so they don't have to have those responses.
Oh, yeah.
They're not a bad thing. It's just the body is saying, yay, finally there's some way to get this out of my body, and I'm going to do out of this body, out of this cellular system, and I'm going to do it now. And you don't want to do it so quickly, because then you have different symptoms, aching, headaches, sometimes gastro problems, or a rash, different things. So I'm a person who, since I had long COVID, I have to always drink my humic in a big glass of water. If I take it straight as a shot, I will get a rash within 3 days. Um,
Oh.
so these are just, it's, so how does humic work with long COVID? There are some studies, I believe I have it in the compilation, about that humic actually will remove spike proteins from your system. I don't know how effectively. I've been using it for a while, and I still have this Herx response. So it's such a new thing. There's very little data about it. The one thing that humic does that I think is really, and humic and fulvic together do, that's important for people to know, just generally in terms of viruses and bacteria from colds and things like that. They both create an inhospitable environment, both in the gut, in the bloodstream, and inside the cells, the fulvic inside the cells. They create inhospitable environments for viruses and for bacteria. So as an example, I mean, the only illness, and I should knock on wood, but the only illness that I've had in like 8 years since I really got replenished with these minerals is COVID. I literally, if I feel a cold coming on or that funny feeling like I might be fighting a virus, I just take more I'll take another half cup of fulvic that day.
Hmm.
So
Wow. Let's
yeah.
talk about dosing for a second, because you were talking earlier about RDA and how it really is different for everyone. How do you know how to dose yourself on the humic and fulvic?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you asked that question that way, because one of the things that we never use the word dose, particularly because minerals are not medicine. Plant-based minerals in particular are foundational support. So, and because of the way that plant-based trace minerals work, it's a completely different paradigm of thinking. So, what you're going to do with trace minerals, with these trace plant based minerals, is you're going to infuse your system daily with a very, very small amount of extremely bioavailable formatted full spectrum minerals. So, the beautiful thing about it is there's a standard kind of base amount that we recommend for just the normal human, and like between maybe 80 pounds and 180 pounds. And that's 1/2 ounce of our electrolytes, which is the fulvic product, and 1/2 ounce of our microboost, which is our humic product. That's what you would take every day as your foundational, provides all of the full spectrum of minerals that you and electrolytes that you need in a day. Now you have these tools, though. You have electrolytes, which is the fulvic, and you have microboost, which is the humic, and now you have these tools. So the electrolytes product, and I guess I'll show in case anybody's watching. This electrolytes, which is the green bottle, is your electrolyte replenisher. Instead of using salt-based electrolytes, all you need to do, let's say you go on a big hike, or you go on a big bike ride, or you work out in the yard and sweat a lot, or you're playing soccer with your kids and you come in and you're like, you just take an extra capful of electrolytes, throw it in a glass of water and drink it. Now you're doing two things. One, you're providing the full spectrum of electrolytes and minerals that your body has just depleted through your exercise, and you're providing the delivery system for them directly into the cells so they can be utilized within like 2 minutes. No digestion, immediate replenishment. We go to aid stations at bike races, and the bikers come in, they're going 50 miles out and 50 miles back, and the aid station is at that 50-mile mark. They come in, they're cramping, they're like shaky, they're like literally like this. And they don't want to use the salt-based electrolytes because they know it's going to trash their stomachs. The only other option is pickle juice. They come to us, they're like, what do you have? And we're like, try it. They take 1 ounce of it and they just down it. And literally within a minute, they're like, whoa, what just happened? I feel that. Because they're so depleted, their body just goes and uptakes it immediately. And they
Wow.
feel immediate replenishment. And then we spray their legs with the Instalight spray, and the cramping goes the other way, and they're like, "This is crazy! This is so amazing!" So, so electrolyze is that tool, your electrolyte replenisher tool, and the microboost, the blue bottle, is your. This is your kind of, what do I call it? My brain just went on the fritz, but it's your way of up-leveling your immune system. Okay, so let's say, and it's also a way to clear out toxins. Let's say you go out with some friends, have a few glasses of wine, you come home, you just take another quarter, half cup of microboost before you go to bed. You'll wake up with no hangover. Or let's say you eat something at a restaurant, you feel some food poisoning potential, you just take a little more microboost, clears out that bacteria. Or you feel that cold or flu coming on, you just take a little extra microboost to help to support your body in fighting and removing those whatever toxic or bacterial or viral elements are there. Or there's a couple other ways that you can use it, but those are the foundational ones.
And the microboost has both humic and fulvic, correct?
Yeah, so microboost, and the reason people ask, why does it have both? And the main reason that the fulvic is in that formulation is that the fulvic you remember how I said it has this ability to change its polarity, and strangely, it will literally sit in this bottle, changing its polarity, and it keeps this formulation in a specific pH range so that the humic will stay completely ionized. So that's what makes this formulation able to be to require no digestion. As soon as it falls out of suspension, it's now in that larger molecular form that requires digestion before it can be absorbed. But when it's ionized, so it's bound to this water molecule, it's immediately able to be absorbed.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I've personified humic and fulvic already in my brain. I just love those little guys. They're so helpful. So
I just love those little guys too.
is there any other cautions that people might need to know about? And I appreciate your offer to share the information on herxing and kind of how to mitigate that. But as people start this, like if someone's very sensitive, if someone is afraid they might fall into that category of, yeah, everything makes me herx, should they start with just sniffing it? Like what's the best way for people to start, or spraying it on?
What they should do is they should start with electrolytes. No one ever herxes. I've never had anyone have a herx response. I've had a couple of different people have responses that were not herx. It was a different thing. But so what I always suggest is 10 days with just electrolytes. What you're doing is up-leveling mitochondrial function throughout your whole body. Now, after 10 days, when you start using our slow introduction method, which is just a 1/4 teaspoon in a glass of water, your body now has more bandwidth to handle and manage that detoxification process that you're going to start very gently and just titrate up over time.
And then over time, they're going to start the second bottle, or, in the same way, or?
Yeah, so the electrolytes, they're going to just start the regular amount, the half cap,
that was
for
so
10
electrolytes.
days. Yeah, you don't have to worry about any herx, no sensitivity issues with this. Anybody can take it. Nobody ever has any problems with it. That's nice thing about it. So you're providing that full spectrum of minerals, a delivery system. You're up-leveling the nutrient uptake of anything else you put in your mouth. Great, incredible tool. Just don't want to take it alone over a long period of time, because it's also doing intercellular detoxification. The Herxheimer response happens when your body starts removing these toxins all the way from your body. That's when you start having herx, and that's what the humic does. So you would take the electrolytes for like 10 days, and this is all on our website, just so you clear in the usage description. There's a little QR code on the back. You just scan that, it will take you there. And you just start with the humic with a 1/4 teaspoon in a glass of water, 3 or 4 days. If you have no herx, you would go then add another 1/4 teaspoon, and you would just slowly build up over time. I've never had anybody not able to. Well, maybe there was like one person, and she had an extremely complex health history.
Great. So that's really helpful. The other thing that's been really helpful and super generous is that you've offered 20% off for listeners of the Healing Grove podcast. So people can use Healing Grove as the all one word, just squish it together. And that, I guess there's a place to put that in as a coupon, and that's awesome. So thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome. And I just want to encourage people. We have an education area of our website that has lots of different articles that might be specific to some specific issue or question people have. And they're all, although they're very kind of topically oriented for consumers, they have links through to more scientific information for the people who need to go deeper to understand or vet the products.
Amazing.
We always appreciate people doing a deep dive in vetting products, and we love to talk to people and answer the questions.
Awesome. Thank you. So I have one last question for you, and then I'll let you share anything that we've missed, Caroline. I'm always fascinated by careers that take a pivot, and a lot of people who pivot and switch what they're doing are doing it because their heart is really calling them, and their soul is really speaking to them and saying, this is what you have to do. And that's really my sense of what's happened with you. I'm wondering if that mission has been hard to execute. Like, Do you feel like the world is ready for this, or do you feel like it's been an obstacle? There's been obstacles to kind of getting people on board with understanding the importance of plant-based mineral replenishment.
Yeah. I've been on this journey for many years now, and sometimes I'm like, wow, it's been a long time. When I first started out, and I had these big aha moments, and I literally studied for 2 years deeply the science behind all of the stuff that I've been talking about. But I quickly realized that it's way too complex of a conversation for people to understand. So what I think is this: mineral replenishment is the vanguard of health. It is the issue of our age, along with glyphosate exposure, which also exacerbates mineral depletion. These two issues are the things that every single person needs to look at and begin to understand. You wouldn't think of not taking, most people take vitamins of some sort, and you need to be taking minerals. So it's like, years ago, nobody had ever knew anything about the gut microbiome. That was just some language somebody just came up with, right? Nobody, what is that? Somebody made that up. And nobody had heard of probiotics. And after a while, people started eating yogurt, and then they started, doing all these different drinks and things that people take for kefir and all, whatever probiotic drinks. Now it's well known. And that's what I am on a mission to do with the world of minerals, is bring it to the mainstream, help people understand that there are very simple natural solutions to provide that full spectrum of minerals that you need. And it doesn't have to be complex, but it's definitely a paradigm shift from thinking about your body like a car and trying to, fill up the tank and taking 20 pills or powders or flavored, horrible tasting salt-based drinks.
Yeah. Well, you're treating your body like a garden.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So let's make little Edens inside of us.
I love that. Well, that's a perfect place to end. Thank you so much for this time and for sharing all your learnings and for bringing this beautiful product into the world. It's really going to make a difference for people.
Thank you so much, Kristin. I feel like every morning the minerals like get me up. They're like, chop, chop, get up, get going, get the word out. One of the things I say is that if we can get Mother Earth back into the human body, we will start as humans to resonate again with the earth and start taking care of it better and taking care of ourselves better.
Beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Healing Grove podcast. If you liked it, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to deepen your experience further, consider grabbing a copy of the Healing Grove Playbook. With journal prompts for this podcast and 41 others, it's the perfect place to record your learnings, keep track of the tools you explore, and reflect on your own experience. Finally, it's important to mention that even though I am a doctor, nothing you hear on this podcast, whether from myself or my guests, constitutes medical advice. Any intervention you try should always be discussed with and supervised by a trusted member of your own healing team. Thanks for listening, and see you next time in the Healing Grove.